chasing cash wholesale deals, just really struggling along. Lou Brown, he's out there been chasing impact. Since 1970s, he's been closing creative deals without banks, building generational wealth while helping people get into homes who've been ignored by traditional lenders. Here's the wake-up call. 70 to 80% of the people who want to buy a house right now do not qualify for traditional loans at low interest rates. So if you're only offering cash, you're walking away from deals and missing your mission. Lou's Street Smart system teaches you how to find the buyer before you go out and buy, right? That flips the risk, protects your downside, and sets you up to serve people the banks will not touch. This isn't charity, and it's highly, highly profitable. Guys, welcome to the Closers Club, where real investors get real strategies that actually close deals today in this market. No fluff, no guru BS, just what works. Lou, my friend, Thank you so much for jumping on today. I love it. Thank you for being here. It's a big honor for me.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
I am so happy to be here, David. You are amazing, and you've done so much in your career. And it's just fantastic that you're offering folks an opportunity to learn some things. This is great.
Yes. Well, let's jump right in. I know you're a busy guy and you have students and clients all over the country, so I'm very grateful to have you here for a little bit. Let's just kind of start broad, right? A lot of investors that are out there and coaches that are teaching and the podcasts and stuff, investors, they're taught to just solve problems, which is good, right? But what makes you unique, right? And one of the reasons that I've been following you for decades is your system really just turns that on its head. And, you love to say doing good while doing well. And I absolutely love that. I think we should all embrace that. How is that the smarter, safer, and just honestly more profitable way to do business in today's market?
Well, honestly, I was surprised myself. So I created a book way back in 2013, and it was called Doing Good While Doing Well, How Real Estate Investors Provide a Service and Make a Difference. And I had intended that book for the use of talking to my potential lenders, right? I was going to give that to them. And also, what surprised me, though, was one time I was talking to a seller and I was telling her about who we are and what we do and how we help deserving families, regardless of credit or financial background, to end up with home ownership. And the shocking thing was the lady starts leaning in and listening. And I went, hold on, I've got something in the car. I want to show it to you. And I went out to the car and got my book and I gave it to the seller. And that was like an aha moment all of a sudden when she saw that we were part of a nationwide network of affordable housing providers from all over the country. She said, yeah, baby, let's do it. And someone else had actually offered her more for the property. And that was a cash offer. And I ended up buying that property with not one, but two mortgages on it. I took subject to both of those mortgages. She was a paralegal for 42 years. And if any deal could blow apart, it would be somebody that has a legal background. In litigation, by the way. She was in a litigation department with one of the largest law firms in the South. And she said, I love what you're doing. I want to help. And then I went, aha, if we can talk with sellers and help them realize that they're helping a deserving family end up with home ownership, that's a game changer. So then I started doing that. I started teaching that, and it has been phenomenal. Even folks that have been getting offers for more from other people will do this. Because here's what I think a lot of investors fail to realize. That house that you are buying, that house was their house. They raised their kids there. Grandma died in the back bedroom. The dog is buried in the yard. This is an emotional experience when they're selling this property. And what we, fail to realize sometimes is, investors come in and surgically remove them from their house just with a number.
Right.
And it's not that. If you tie some emotion in there and you let them know that they are going to go on to help somebody, then it is a game changer. So I have enjoyed the process of letting people know that not only do we do well, we also do good.
I love that. And, again, also a big honor to have you on here. As I've said, every time we're together, you were there when I was just starting my career 23 years ago. And I was a lot skinnier and you had darker hair. And, I love that the things you taught then and the principles that guide you and your company and, and all of your teachings still hold true today. And that's what's giving you the longevity. But Lou, you've been doing this even longer than that. You started this in the 70s, man. I was
I did.
really still a toddler, even me. And I feel like I'm pretty old. But, how did you discover that you didn't need banks? And I kind of want to tie that into, you mentioned earlier buying properties subject to the existing mortgage. You're really one of the pioneers for that, literally almost the godfather of it in our country. How did you even discover that? And, how has that impacted everything that you've done over the years?
Well, let's unpack that. That's a lot of
Yeah.
good stuff there. So the first time that I got introduced to real estate was when one of my mother's friends told me that she bought the duplex that she lived in.
Yeah.
And she told me that the people on the other side were paying enough money to cover the mortgage. And
Wow.
that meant to me that they were living for free. Now,
Hmm.
my 8-year-old child brain
Hmm.
suddenly realized that my mother and I, because it was just the two of us, and no safety net whatsoever,
Right.
no programs, no grandparents, no uncles, aunts, cousins, nothing. It was just the two of us. My mother was an immigrant to this country. And so all of a sudden, we're hiding out from the rent man, and she's living for free. And I said, I think I'm
Wow.
going to pay attention to Aunt Mabel.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to pay attention to what she's doing. Well, the next year she bought the duplex next door. And again, she said the people on one side were paying enough to cover the mortgage and the other money was theirs. And they had an amazing lifestyle. And I said, that's it, baby. So she ended up buying 5 duplexes on the same street she lived on. Talk about target marketing, right?
Right. Every landlord's dream.
She just bought everything right there. And then she ended up buying a brand new house in a brand new subdivision, all brick home on a corner lot. And I went, Eureka, that's it. Well, when I was 18 years old, she says to me, you need to buy a house. And I said, buy a house, Aunt Mabel, you go to banks and qualify for loans. How in the world am I going to buy a house? She
Yeah.
said, I don't know, but you need to meet my friend, Realtor Sue. So sure enough, here comes the blue-haired lady with the big Cadillac.
Yeah.
And she has me jump in, and I'm riding around with her like I'm going to buy a house. Like this is for real or something.
Out of body experience, right?
But what was amazing is that she knew something that Aunt Mabel didn't know, that you could take over existing financing. So
Really?
way back then, you had a thing called NENQ loans. That's non-escalating, non-qualifying financing. For $45, you could take over somebody else's loan. How
Kidding.
cool is that?
Amazing.
So that's the pre-1982 Garn St. Germain Federal
Yes.
Depository Institutions Act.
Mhm.
Well, when they passed that law, it was like taking candy away from me because I'd already bought 3 properties by taking over the existing financing.
Mm.
So then I read the law, and what do you know? In the law, it said that except the due on sale clause, and the lenders can put the due on sale clause in the
Mhm.
mortgage, but they cannot call the loan due when someone places their property in trust,
Yeah.
essentially for estate planning purposes. The lender cannot call that loan due. And I went, yeah, baby, that's me. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to learn about these things called
Mhm.
trusts. And
Yes.
then I dug deeper, and I found the perfect trust and created the perfect paperwork. And I've
Mhm.
been teaching people since 1986 how to do that. And it's been phenomenal. I've got licensees of my trust system in all 50 states, and
Yeah.
people are using it everywhere. And that was one of the aha moments for me where I was able to say, yes, we can buy this. But I got to tell you, Dave, there's people out there now teaching this the wrong way. They
Yes.
are they didn't go to my class for one thing.
I know.
They didn't
I know.
they
It
didn't
is
learn
not
the
the
right way to
solution
do
for
this.
every single problem, but it definitely has a place where we can really step in and help people.
Amen. Amen. Because you think about the tens of thousands of dollars that are closing costs when
Right.
it's a brand new loan. You can
Mhm.
avoid those expenses,
Yeah.
and you can buy a property with a lower interest rate. It just
Mhm.
works, works, works. And
Yeah.
especially if you believe in what I believe in, which is the long-term hold strategy. And
Yes.
so as a result of that, I believe in cash now, cash flow, and cash forever. And so what I teach in my buy, hold, sell system is that you're able to maximize your profits selling the property, not for retail, but for higher than retail,
course.
because you are solving a need that
Yep.
people have out there. Like you said, 70 to 80% cannot qualify
Right.
for a traditional loan. Now imagine that you can come to the market. You can say, you know what? We have a path to home ownership.
There you
We
go.
have a way that people can come into our world, and we can custom buy a property for them.
Mhm.
We can buy it right, we can
Yeah.
buy it cheap, and we can buy it creatively. And when I teach that to folks, they go, yeah, baby, count me in. This is a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. So,
Now, Lou, do you ever get people who are like, just nobody's going to let me take over their loan? Why would anybody do that? Nobody's going to do that. Like,
well,
that's got to be a common objection.
it is. It is. And one of the great things is when you are able to show the seller that there's something in it for them to
Mhm.
allow you to take over their financing, that's when you're able to turn the tables, right?
Yeah.
So here, I'll show you what we do. So I have an entire presentation that I supply to my folks, and I teach them how to make a presentation, how to make a
Mm.
sales presentation to their seller, because there's a lot of questions that the seller has that you haven't thought about. And
Right.
they're baked into their brain and they haven't said them. And sometimes they don't say them out loud.
Right.
And so what I do is
Love that.
handle all the objections. I give them testimonials.
Mhm.
I educate them on the fact that there's a thing called cost to sell.
Right.
And I let them know what the numbers are and a whole bit. Well, what happens is at the end of my presentation, I have a cost to sell worksheet.
I know. I've
And
seen it.
oh, this is a
Use it.
beautiful thing, man. This is absolute gold.
Yeah.
So what happens is that whatever price we've agreed as the asking price, then I have a whole bunch of things that I have them consider as
Yeah.
the fact that there's
Yeah.
going to be a cost to sell, and
Right.
that for us to be able to buy their home, we have to calculate what it's going to cost.
Sure.
Well, here's what's interesting about that. Our first offer is always a cash offer.
Yeah.
And if they
Anchor.
like that, I'm happy and they're happy. Now, why am I happy? Because I've already included my cost of funds in there. So, in other words, the seller literally out of their equity is paying for my cost of funds to give them a cash offer. Now, I include 5 points and 15% interest.
Mhm.
So, when we're looking at the numbers here, then I'm able to, calculate that into
Sure.
my cost to
Yeah.
sell that home. And so if they like that number, we're done, because I'm
Mhm.
just going to borrow that money privately.
Right.
Now, if they don't like that number, then I simply go back to that same place on the cost to sell and I say, hey, here's what we can do for you. I'm going to have to give these loan sharks this big money, and
Mhm.
I would rather give it to you.
Yeah.
So what we can do is just taking out 6 months of your payments on the loan that you have now, the balance of that, I can give that to you. And sometimes, Dave, that's tens of thousands of dollars that I'm
Wow.
adding back to the bottom line. So I'm literally showing the seller how there's something in it for them, for me to take over their loan.
I
Well,
love that.
they love it. They totally get it, and they don't argue.
Yeah.
That's the big news. So when I can teach people, look, yes, sellers will let you take over their existing financing, but you got to give them a reason to.
Sure.
So another reason is that we come in fully dressed. We are credibility. We're oozing
Yes.
credibility. We present the seller with the book. That's
Right.
part of my process of talking to the seller. Mr. Olds, I thank you so much for the opportunity to come into your home today and to find out more about your home and your situation. And I just wanted to let you know, we work with sellers like you and houses like this in our program to help deserving families end up with home ownership. How
Yeah.
does that sound?
Love it.
And then I present them with the book, and I fan out. I let them know that I'm not an empty restaurant here.
Right.
I've got a lot of people that are doing this all across the country. Well, that also gives them comfort, and they're able to see how this really fits beautifully into being able to help somebody, but also being able to get rid of a problem, get rid
Yeah.
of that property. And so, we have a process that we do. That's why we call it a system, but it really is a system because we're actually going through that process. And then on the flip side, as you asked me, you said, hey, what about these people out here? Well,
Yeah.
there's so many people, 70 to 80% of the marketplace
It's a lot.
needs, and they actually want housing. Trulia did this study. 78% of people living in rental properties do not want to be in a rental property. They want to have a home of their own. They have that in their trajectory of their future. And then we come along and introduce them to the path to home ownership. And they go, yeah, baby, count me in. So,
Yeah, it's literally the American dream.
it's a beautiful thing. And so what we're able to do is get significant down payments in some cases from these buyers. And many of them own businesses. We're not talking about broke people here.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that people sometimes misunderstand when they see the word affordable. And it's affordable housing is not the price of the home. It's the person. What can the person afford?
Right.
And then we analyze the person. So when I say find the buyer before you buy, we analyze that person. We find out how deep their pockets are. We find out how much they can afford to put down. And then we find out how much they can afford on a monthly basis. So based upon that, we are able to now go custom buy a property for them. And we can buy that property right, cheap, and creatively, right?
So that's what you mean when you say find the buyer before you buy, before you go get that property. That way, when you get it, you've got somebody to put in there. I love that. That's genius.
So you don't have to worry about the market. You don't have to worry about buying the wrong house in the wrong neighborhood at the wrong time with the wrong things wrong with it and getting the wrong contractor and all the things that can happen, that do happen to real estate investors. We say, no, you got it all wrong. Flip the script. Let's go find a buyer. And so I have a program, it's called the House Monster. And that's what it is it's a system. It's a marketing system to bring those buyers in. And so we pre-analyze those buyers, and then we put them in the incubator. And then we go about finding properties. By the way, another cool thing is the buyers actually become team members. So
really?
I send them out in the field and I say, look, I don't need your help looking online. That's what we do. We do all the online stuff, the MLS stuff, everything. Here's what I need your help with. Go out into the field, see what you can find. Get me an off-market property, find property, tall grass, the whole thing. So I explain to them exactly what to look for, and they go out in their off time and they bring me back deals.
That's amazing. That's absolutely unbelievable. Lou, paperwork, right? People are very nervous because making sure, do they have the right paperwork, and how are they going to know that all this is done right? And that's something you can help them with, right? Literally guide them step by step to make sure the contracts are done correctly.
Well, I'm proud to say that I'm known in the industry as having the best paperwork on the planet.
Yeah.
And it's been built granularly through years and years of trial and error and testing and getting beat up and everything else, and figuring out what should have been in the paperwork that wasn't in the paperwork.
Yeah.
So we have perfected it over the years, and whether it's a word or a phrase or a paragraph, it has been from the trenches. And as a result of that, we've been able to help a lot of folks build amazing businesses. And they to this day, I was just interviewed on another guy's podcast. His name is Terry Kerr. He's over in, him? Over in Tennessee, in your area. Yeah. And what it was amazing. He's done 5,800 homes. And he says, Lou, I've used your contract on every single one of the 5,800 houses.
Gotta make you feel great, right?
Yeah, baby. That made me feel awesome.
Yeah.
And he started about the same time you did.
Well, he's done definitely more than me. I'm at 1647, and so he's far exceeded what I've done. Lou, let
Wow.
me ask you a question because I was on a show a little bit earlier, and they wanted to make the comparison to from today to 2008, 2009, 2010. And to me, I said I don't even think we're in the same ballpark as where it was back then. What are your thoughts on that, and then the market and where we're heading, and how this system can really kind of fill in the gaps, and as an investor, we can really excel right now.
Well, I think the important takeaway for folks to know is that the market, I say it's a new market every single day.
I love
And
that.
I'm open to the new market every single day. And I saw what happened to people back in '08, '09.
Me too.
And I watched a whole lot of people lose everything they had and everything they'd worked so hard to build because they didn't have the right game plan. And that's exactly when I flipped the script and I said, you know what? We're doing this all wrong. The toughest thing I've ever done in this business is to sell the property. I
Mhm.
don't know when it's going to sell. I don't know how much it's going to sell for. I don't know how much my costs are going to be. I don't know how long I'm going to have to carry it. I don't know if that closing is going to blow up. And so I said, you know what? That's the toughest part. So what if I already had a customer? Then I could go buy the property. I
Mhm.
went, that's it. So I
There you go.
created the House Monster at that time. And at that time, our Georgia Senator, Johnny Isaacson, had come up with the idea of the $8,000 Uncle Sam bucks. And that was when people could get an $8,000 tax credit
Right.
in order to buy their house. So I said, okay, when that expired, and I told all my students, I said, sell everything you got, sell
Yeah.
everything you got to the people that live in it. And
Mhm.
I said, and become the bank for them. And
Right.
sure enough, I helped people do that all across the country. It was amazing, a great ride until it expired. And then I said, but it didn't expire because there's other programs,
Right.
there's other down payment assistance at the federal, at the state, at the county
Right.
level, and we
Right.
can tap into that and just replace these bucks with these other bucks
Mm.
and help our people come to the table with not only their cash but with assistance cash as well.
Mhm.
And then the third thing I came up with is them doing some or all of the repairs to the home. And now I do our own in-house grant program where I give them a credit towards their down payment,
Uh-huh.
and we're able to beef up the down payment. And it's a beautiful thing because they're excited. They get to choose their own colors. They get to customize the house for themselves,
Yeah.
and it just works out fantastic. And that the big news is all the repair money is still in your pocket.
Yeah.
You didn't spend all the typical way that you do this business, right? You
Right.
find the house, you fix it up, you put it on the market,
Right.
then you find a buyer. No, let's go the opposite direction. Let them fix,
Mhm.
find the buyer, let them fix it up, keep the
Yeah.
money in your pocket, and you're that much better
I
off.
love that every day is a new market. That might be one of the best things I've heard in a long time because as investors, you have to have that optimism. You can't get, stuck in the mud of whatever's playing on TV, or whatever bad politics is out there. Our job as investors, the reason we all got into this is to help people, right? And I
Yeah.
think you have the absolute perfect system for it, Lou. I absolutely love it. I do think you should, do well and get paid for it. So I think what you're doing is absolutely fantastic.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And one of the things to say about the market that I've learned, I'm in my sixth cycle right now.
Yes.
So I've seen how this works.
Seen a thing or two.
Oh man, a thing or two and a thing or three. And and the funny thing that I've learned is that they set us up.
Mhm.
These markets don't occur naturally. They
Yeah,
are by design. And
sure.
when I figured that one out, I went, okay, so they're actually planning in advance, a year to 6 months in advance, and they already know what they're doing. And you can watch it in the media. You can watch how they start trending stories and they start pointing up things that are
Yeah.
not things to point up, but they do. And they start creating the lemming theory, and
Mhm.
everybody starts running in the opposite direction. Well,
Yeah.
that's on purpose. So they can come in and buy properties at pennies on the dollar. So
Mhm.
when I started seeing this and I picked up on it in the 2008, 9, 10 cycle, and I went, aha, there it is. They're actually doing this on purpose, with purpose. They had a design in mind the whole time. And I went, so what I've got to do is do one thing, and it's so important: survive.
Yes.
Survival is the key. If you can survive this business long term, you can win. You can absolutely win. It is guaranteed. Why? Because of a thing called inflation. It's been with us our whole life.
It's
It's
not going
been
away.
with us forever, and it's always going to be with us.
Yes.
So if inflation is a thing, then those with assets are going to win.
Right.
Those without assets are going to lose.
Yes.
Those that are paying rent are always going to pay more. Those that have fixed rate mortgages are always going to pay them off with worth less dollars.
Yeah.
Now, this is a key, you might go to economic school for 8 years, but this is a key thing to understand. Inflation is making your dollars worth less. So if you're paying off a loan, whether it's your loan or whether it's somebody else's loan that you got to buy subject to,
Right.
you are winning. You can
Yeah.
absolutely win at this game. Can't help it. And especially if you start with the buyer first.
Yeah. So guys, if you want to be in this business for the long term, you want to build real wealth, I get it. Get cash in a $20,000 assignment fee is awesome, a $50,000, but the government's going to take a third of it and you're probably going to blow the rest of it on a TV and a vacation. The way to get rich in this business, which is what I learned from Lou 20 years ago, is you have to buy assets and you have to hold them for the long term. So if you're looking to align yourself, with somebody who's been through 6 market cycles, a guy who has seen it from every single angle, then obviously you want to be, checking out Lou, and we'll drop a link here for you. But, again, markets are going to change and you have to be able to pivot and understand the right strategies to use in all of those. Lou, last question for you. If you had to start from scratch today, right? Somebody's maybe just getting started, or, kind of put yourself in that mindset, you're only working with, what you've got on your desk there, right? A pen, a paper, and a computer. What is the first thing you would do to get that very first deal done quick? Because that's what everybody wants, is that first deal and proof of concept.
I feel highly qualified to answer this question because that's exactly where I started. I started with nothing, with no knowledge, with no background, and really with no opportunity for education.
Right.
Now people have an opportunity to be mentored and supported and helped, and they can learn this business. They can learn how to create an amazing business, but most people don't. And so they trust YouTube University, which is the biggest mistake you can make, because you got a patchwork quilt. And what happens is you're taking an idea from here and a concept from there and a form from another place.
All of them are out of
You're
order.
trying to cobble that together into a business, and it's not a business.
Yeah.
And when I realized that business is a formula, that was an aha moment for me. And I said, you know what? All I got to do is know the formula. And when I can plug in the numbers, then I'm going to be able to create something that's duplicatable.
Right.
And I've got the paperwork. I call it the tools, the training, the technology, and the team. So that was one of the big ahas for me. Is I wish I could have started with some education, some background, some support. And if I had, I would have really been able to excel, because I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning. I bought the wrong house in the wrong neighborhood, wrong things wrong.
Been there.
And just by the sweat of my brow, I was able to pull it out and make money with it, and inflation too. Thank you, God.
Right. I feel like I've invented ways to lose money sometimes. So,
amen.
Yeah. And that's, again, one of the great things about Lou is just the community, right? That tribe that is there with, all of the calls and just so much support. That's so valuable, right? It's so difficult. You're sitting at your kitchen table and you're just taking calls and people are giving you a hard time and you're just trying to do all this stuff and you feel like you're a man or woman alone on an island. And, having support and paperwork and a mentor and just that community to surround you, that's what's going to accelerate your growth and get you in this game quicker. And the quicker you get out of the starting block, the quicker you start accumulating these houses. And you don't have to have 1,000 houses. 20, 25 houses free and clear is going to be a really great retirement.
I can vouch. I've helped so many people grow from 0 houses to 20, 25 houses. And they say, Lou, I'm done. I got what I came for. I got all of the wealth that I was looking for. Thank you very much.
you don't have to be super greedy. Lou, man, thank you so much for popping on. I appreciate it. I know it's late on a Friday and you probably got a million things to do, but super honored to have you on here. kind of actually the highlight of my whole week. So guys, listen up. Lou is not just teaching real estate. He is redefining what it means to be an investor. And he's been doing it for decades. And the only way that you keep doing it is because you have a solid program and just great ideals that you run your business and help your community with. So, his system, it helps you do good and get paid without needing banks and without all of the guesswork, right? So listen, we're going to drop a link here. Make sure you click it. Lou is giving you the exact strategy and structure to close your deals the smart way with no excuses. So listen, if you got value from this, please like, subscribe, and send this to an investor that you know that needs more than just cash offers and really wants to grow their business and build that generational wealth that we all talk and dream about. Lou, thank you so much for popping on.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And I'd love to offer your folks to come to Millionaire Jumpstart.
Awesome.
MillionaireJumpstart.com, guys. Check it out. I make it so ridiculously affordable, $99 to come see me for 3 days and learn this whole business from start to finish. What I've taught in just this short period of time. Listen, I lay the whole thing out. I give you the paperwork. I provide everything to you. I give you the step-by-step. So love to see you at the next Millionaire Jumpstart.
Yeah. And you do those a few times a year, right?
I do it 3 to 4 times a year.
Awesome. Guys, that is an unbelievable offer. And you're in Atlanta, so it's easy to fly in. You're in a huge hub, so easy to zip right in there. And that's a silly, silly cheap price. So make sure you go to that link and take advantage of it. Lou, again, sir, thank you so much. Appreciate you being on.
Thank you so much, David. You're amazing. And thank you so much for helping our folks with your wonderful closing system.
Oh, thank you.
It's just, yeah, baby.
A perfect collaboration.
It's a good thing.
All right. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.